Right guys, Jordan here with a long overdue Football Index update where I'll just go through how I'm getting on and players that I've recently invested in. First of all, I think we're currently looking at £68,000 portfolio, and I think it was only 54,000 3 months ago in my last video. So yeah, £14,000 increase in 3 months is more than I could have possibly expected. I think in the 3 months previous I'd gone up 9 grand. And if I said to myself, if I get anywhere near 9 grand, I'll be happy. So 14k is a little bit ridiculous. I'm certainly not expecting that again in the next 3 months, but even half that still would be fantastic, and it shows just how much the platform is growing. So going through my portfolio, my most recent investment is Neres, which has been a bit of a nightmare. I invested in him 2 or 3 days before we signed his new contract. So obviously his price dropped pretty quickly. I still think long term he's a good investment. I think he will join a real top European club. Man U and Liverpool have both been linked previously, and I think a move to either of them would see him become a £3 player minimum. So I think long term he's still a good hold, but I wouldn't be telling anyone to rush and invest in him right at the minute, given he's probably going to be at Ajax for the rest of the season. Luke Shaw, I've had 1,000 on him. I think he was 80p when I bought him. He's £1 now, but I still think there's a bit of value in that, given Wan-Bissaka's well over double the price, and they are the two fullbacks for Man United playing in the same position. So obviously Wan-Bissaka's a little bit younger, but Shaw has played more games for England. I don't think Bissaka's played yet, and he's established at left back. He's not really got a rival. There's no way Ashley Young's going to be rivaling him for that position throughout the season. So he's a safe bet. He's going to be playing in Europe. Could even force his way back in the England team. So at £1, I just think he's a safe one. I can't really see him dropping. Obviously Pulisic's risen nicely at Chelsea, but he's been someone I've held for about 2 years now. So that's one I've been happy about. Diallo obviously got his move to PSG. I'm still happy to hold him. I did think about selling him in case he didn't fit in, but I'm happy sticking with him. Rashford, he went rocketing when he took the penalty last week, given that they obviously assumed that will boost his PB scoring. And then Pogba missed one yesterday, so I don't know who will be on penalties, but I'm hoping it'll be Rashford, and that will see his price continue to rise if he can bag a few more goals. Trippier is someone I've invested a bit more in. I thought he was going to move to like Juve or Inter or one of the Italian clubs this summer, but it turned out he obviously went to Atletico, which I think is a great move, given that they've got the best defence in Europe. And at 82p, I still think there's value in him. I can see some good PB scores. I know he got an assist on his debut on the weekend, and I think he's going to be a bit of a hit out there. A lot of English players do get more attention than they probably deserve when they go abroad, so I think he could be good for some media as well. But yeah, I just think he's going to thrive out there, and I can see him being well over £1 by the end of the season. Lanzini, he's another one. 1,200 in him. I invested in him just before the season started. His price just looked, he was half the price of the likes of Anderson and Fornals. And if you ask anyone at West Ham in terms of the playing staff, they say Lanzini's the best player at the club. So obviously, I'm happy to get involved in him. I know he's in the Argentina squad now. His price has risen 33p since I invested in him. So, I still think there's a bit of value because he is still less than the likes of Anderson and Fornals. But, there isn't as much value as there was when I got on. But long term, I can see him joining a top 6 club, or potentially even going to Spain. I think he'd fit in well there with his style of play. Sancho, obviously, absolute beauty. I only invested 600 in him a couple of years ago. Now he's the top man on the index. Absolute ridiculous returns, 45p. I got him for. He's now worth £7.17. So 4 grand's worth of profit at the moment. I'm still happy to hold him. I don't see any reason why I should be selling him anytime soon. Douglas Luiz was a long time one I had at Man City. He's now joined Villa. Scored a belter on the weekend, so his price has just started to rocket as well. Toussaint, he's captain of the French under-21 side, which I think is a good sign. Any player who kind of captains a club or country, I like to get involved with just because it shows they have good character. And I think good characters tend to have good careers. So he's not going to be one of these youngsters who shine for a couple of seasons and then you never hear of. Although he's in an unattractive position as a holding midfielder, I think he would do a job for a lot of Premier League clubs, especially a club like Arsenal or someone like that, I can see him doing really well with. And given that he's at Lyon, they seem to lose their best players year in, year out. So maybe next season I can see him moving potentially to the Premier League. Who else is a new signing? Let's have a look. Dembele is another one. Obviously not gone so well, showing a slight loss on him. I just think he's one of them players who's slightly overshadowed by Messi. Well, as every other player is in the world. But I think if he does get a move, he can go back to being star man like he was at Dortmund. And I generally do see him being one of the top maybe 5, 10 best players in the world when he peaks. And at the moment, he's 40th on the index. So I can see him being a top 5, top 10 hold, which would make him, you know, maybe a £5 player. Maybe not this season, but definitely over the next couple of seasons. So I've got no worries about holding him long term. Another one is this youngster called Dilrosun. He's actually not a player I knew much about. I actually discovered him on Football Manager, like I think a lot of Football Index investors probably do. So I thought, oh, I've never heard of this guy. I'll Google him, had a little look, and I'd seen he's just broken into the Hertha Berlin side at the end of last season. And within a few games, he'd got called up to the Dutch squad and played for them. So there's kind of a good bit of buzz around him. And I think the German league is a good breeding ground for young talent. So it's still at 77p. I think there's a lot of potential in him if he's as good as a lot of the online articles say they are and the YouTube reels. I know some players don't end up hitting their peak, but with the amount of money that some young players are on the index, I think it's 77p, he's a bit of a snip. So that's it in terms of my recent investments. I think I've got rid of a few players such as Coutinho, Icardi, players who I thought were going to go on to become like the best players in the world potentially, but generally haven't shown the form that I expected. I still managed to sell both of them at a slight profit, given their transfer rumours over the summer. So yeah, it's been a good 3 months so far, and the portfolio is absolutely flying. So if anyone else has any questions or queries about the Football Index or wants any advice, then just drop me a DM on Twitter and I'll do my best to get back to you. Cheers for watching.